right, shalom, brothers and sisters, back again. I want to do a little more on this head and hair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play Pastor Gino Jennings this segment at the 14-minute segment, and I want to kind of deal with this head because I don't want anybody to walk away from here thinking that I can't trust the New Testament because it was tampered with. It was, whatever. So I want you to see what Gino's saying to make a point, and I want you to see what was in the minds of Paul when he talked about, I should say John, when he talked about the vision that he saw. Okay, so there's a couple of things that plays in Revelation. So we're going to play this clip and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to address that. All right.
His hair is like wool. All right? Come here, Brother Campbell. So, his hair like wool. White like wool, white as snow. That's what the book says. The book says. The hairs of his head is white like wool, white as snow. They look at the scripture where his feet and his arms and hands like fine brass. They say that's the color of a black man. All right? But what color is his head?
So what Gino is attempting to do is he's doing what is known as in theological circles as Bible hermeneutics. What is Bible hermeneutics? Bible hermeneutics teach you that if one part of the text is literal, then the whole text has to be literal. If one part of the text is figurative, then the whole text has to be figurative, right? So the point he's making is that if the color of his skin is being compared to that, then the color of his head and hair has to reflect what he looked like. Because if you're literally applying these, then you're going to have a different meaning. Okay. So that's where he's going with that. Okay. But we're going to straighten something out in a minute because we're going to show you something in a second. I think the problem is in the translation.
It's the language of the scripture that they overlook. It is this fine detail that I love to see.
That's right.
Listen at the book of Revelation.
Revelation chapter 1, we'll start at verse 13.
Listen.
And in the midst of the seven candlesticks,
In the
one
midst
light,
of the seven candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man.
clothed with a garment down to the foot,
Listen.
and girt about the paps with a golden girdle.
What is it?
His head and
is one thing. His head
and his hairs
and his hairs. What color was his head and his hairs?
were white.
Like what?
Like wool, as white as snow.
That
Okay.
don't mean that God was a white man.
Okay. So do you see what he's trying to do? Okay. So he's trying to basically show, in his estimation, how foolish it is to make reference to his, let's see, polished brass. Where does it say? Okay, because the following verse says his feet was like fine brass, as if it was burned in a furnace, and his voice is as the sound of many waters. So what he's saying is this part here, his feet was as fine brass burned in a furnace. So if his feet is being compared to, if it's literal, what he's saying, that's called Bible hermeneutics, what I just told you, right? And Hermes was a deity, but that's another lesson. But they call it Bible hermeneutics. If his feet is compared to burned furnace, then his head's got to be compared to white wool. His head and hairs. That's what the point he's trying to make. But I'm going to show you that is literal And I'm going to show you why it's literal. Because the head, his head, let's look at this word head, right? What's the word there? Kaphale. Kaphale, it says, it's called capto, right? Capto is where the English word cap comes from, like a baseball cap. So this head is actually talking about the cover, which is what? His garment. Okay, we're going to clear some of them in a minute. It says capto in the sense of seizing, right? The head as a part most readily taken, right? Hold of, literal or figurative. So this head is talking about literal or figurative, right? So in this particular sense, this head is talking about like what I have on the cover. The word used is kaphale. How do we know that? Real simple, because 1 Corinthians used the same word. Every man praying or prophesying, having his head covered. Look at this right here, head covered, right? Dishonor of his head. So what do we see here? Head is the word kaphale, right? Capto. So you have kata, which means down in place or time. Okay. And then you have kaphale, right? The head as the part that's readily taken hold of. All right. So we can see that this head cover is actually literally talking about having a cover, right, on their head, right? So that word kaphale is equivalent to the Hebrew kapha. Kapha is the same thing as we call kufi. They all descend from the Hebrew kapha. Kapha, which means cover, right? A kapha could be a face cover, which is a veil, or a kapha could be a top cover, which is like what I have on, right? Or something to protect you, right? So with that said, if we go back to Revelation 1:14, to kind of bring some clarity to what's being said here, is his head, his cover, his kapha, right? We got this word "and" here. It says copulative, cumulative, right? Okay. His head and hairs. So he's making a comparison. The head was something and the hair was something, right? Okay. So the head, the cover was white like wool, as white as snow. So this white like wool, white as snow, is a reference to the head cover, not to his hair. Okay. So head would be white. Hair would be like wool. White as snow would be comparing the white to what? His garment, right? That's just saying his garment signified purity, right? So when you read this, the garment was white, so it's consistent with the prophecy. Now, some would say, well, this is a personal revelation. No, it's not no personal revelation. Don't give me that. John was not having a personal revelation because the Most High is not going to show him something different than what the prophet saw, because that would be confusion, right? So if he saw a man with white head and white hair, that would be straight up confusion. So the confusion is in the translation, not in the application of the experience of Yakanan, but it's in the translation. This word head is the word kafa, kufi, capto, cap, right? And the cap was white, right? White as snow. The wool was, the hair was like wool. Because we go back to Daniel 7, I think it is. Seven and 9, it says his garment was white as snow. See that? The garment was white as snow. The hair was like pure wool. See that? Now, I want to show you something. Okay, so let's go back to Revelation 1 and 14. So when you read that, you need to read it this way. His head, his garment was white like wool, was white as snow. His head, his garment, his head cover, his head, his cover, and his garment, because that's what the head is talking about. His garment, his headdress, his garment was white as snow. His hairs were like wool. Okay. Now go back to Daniel 7 and 9. His garment was white as snow, and his hair, right? His hair, they use hair, literally, right? His hair of his resh, head. See, this is different than kafa. This is talking about his hair, right? His literal hair. How about that? Hair as if tossed by bristling. So this one actually clarifies it. It's saying his hair on his resh, his head, not the cover, but the head, right, was like pure, right? Nikkei, right? Clean, right? Clean, like pure, was like pure wool. See that? Amar. Amar means wool. To be shaggy. So the Ancient of Days literally compared his appearance to his hair to pure wool. Another place it says something about polished brass. This is Daniel 10 and 6. His body also was like beryl, okay? Compared to a gem, as topaz. Okay, the topaz. Okay, so we got beryl. Hold on a second. Let me see something real quick. Okay, so beryl. Hold on a second. Let me see something real quick. It said topaz, so that's like a turquoise color there. I'm not sure if that's, here's topaz right here. Okay, there we go. All right, topaz. So that makes sense now. So topaz is, that's a topaz. Okay, all right. This makes this brings it home even more. Okay, this is a topaz. I'm trying to blow it up. You won't let me blow it up any bigger than that. But that's a topaz, right? So that's like a reddish bronzish color. Okay.